Has the notion of no bad publicity always been true? Today I'll tell you about 10 scandals that turned artists and their paintings into stars of the art world. Sadly, not all of them assisted the artists while they were alive. However, whether intentional or accidental, good publicity always increases the value of paintings over time. Let's take a look. First, Gustave Courbet, The Bathers, 1853. At first glance, there's nothing remarkable about this painting, just a pastoral scene like dozens we've seen before. But after Courbet exhibited his work at the Paris Salon, it enraged the public. Napoleon, enraged, struck the painting with his cane because the public found the backside of one of the nymphs provocative and powerful. Body positivity was unheard of back then. Napoleon's wife, Empress Eugénie, who had previously examined a painting depicting Perchères on horses, looked at the bather and asked, "Is this a Percheron too?" But what outraged the public the most was the sloppy maid, as if maids only ever coquettishly dust with a feather duster, but this one had a sock half slipped off her foot, and horror of horrors, dirty heels and dirty feet. Yes, this was unheard of in the Paris Salon. What kind of realism is this? Soon they may start depicting the poor and destitute. Remember to watch my video about the Impressionists if you haven't yet. The link is in the description. The Paris Salon desperately clung to 300-year-old standards in which nymphs with dirty heels simply didn't exist. However, Courbet himself went through this scandal without any worries. He was used to it. And if only they could see what he would paint later, but I can't show you that, otherwise I'll get blocked. Google The Origin of the World by Gustave Courbet and Luncheon on the Grass by Edouard Manet from 1863. It should be said that most of the scandals in the 19th century were, of course, connected with the naked female body. Depicting it according to classical canons was usually done very delicately and in some kind of mythological setting, otherwise it would cause a scandal. And so, in 1863, Manet painted Luncheon on the Grass. The conservative Paris Salon rejects the painting, and it is exhibited in the Salon of the Refused, which was specially created by order of Napoleon for experimental artists. And this year, Luncheon on the Grass becomes a real star. Not a day went by without someone trying to stab the painting with a cane or spit on it. What exactly outraged the public so much? The thing is, the image of the naked woman was too realistic, and on top of that, she was surrounded by ordinary clothed men. The painting's subject, despite its unskilled execution, did not portray a mythological story. At the very least, with dirty heels, he simply placed the naked woman right in the middle of the park, and what's more, she was shamelessly staring at the viewer. Based on the painting's proportions, the woman emerging from the water must be at least 5 meters tall. This was probably the very first major scandal that made Manet famous. And although at first this fame was bad, in the end it worked, and the story of the painting overshadowed all its flaws. Third, Edouard Manet, Olympia, 1863. Manet painted Olympia in the same year as Luncheon on the Grass, but only decided to show it 2 years later. Olympia further solidified his status as a scandalous artist, which was precisely his goal. Yes, that's precisely what provocation resembled back then. To place a naked woman at the center of an ordinary everyday scene and show that she is not ashamed of her nudity, but even looks at the viewer defiantly, displaying herself. And in 1865, Olympia was exhibited at the Paris Salon just as Manet wanted. And this became a kind of repeat of the public's favorite attraction and entertainment. Just like we go to the sequel of a favorite movie, they went to see Manet's exhibition again. Many were outraged by the artist's obscenity, discussing it, spitting, and threatening various punishments. And it worked perfectly. Armed with canes and spit, the public passionately tried to break through the security guards. In the end, the crowd grew so large that they simply hung the painting so high that no cane or the most skillful spit could reach it. Here is a typical statement from the contemporary Olympia press. Never before has anyone seen anything more cynical than this Olympia. This is a female gorilla made of rubber and depicted completely naked on a bed. However, this trick worked brilliantly. Olympia is now considered one of the most iconic works of the 19th century. Fourth, Kuindzhi, Moonlit Night on the Dnieper, 1880. In 1880, for the first time in Russia, an exhibition was held featuring only one painting. The excitement surrounding it could be compared to the lines on Black Friday or at a Taylor Swift concert. From early morning, people queued for a kilometer to catch a glimpse of it. Ilya Repin recalls, a continuous mass of carriages filled the entire street with a long tail, and people stood on the stairs waiting to be let in from the street on both sides of the sidewalk. The exhibition was accompanied by public relations carried out according to all the most modern rules. To begin with, this painting was bought by Grand Duke Konstantin Konstantinovich for a fantastic 5,000 rubles at that time. That's roughly 100 million rubles now. The only exhibit at the exhibition also added significance. Moreover, the exhibition was organized for the first time with artificial contrast lighting, which further emphasized the skill with which it was painted. All the lights of Petersburg stood in this line these days. This time, it was Kuindzhi's virtuosity in conveying the moonlight rather than a scandalous subject that caused the excitement. The newspapers wrote every day about how some nobleman got his foot stepped on in the line, and the viewers tried to look behind the painting to find a hidden light bulb. The image was that realistic. Now the painting is the jewel of the collection at the Russian Museum in St. Petersburg. John Sargent, Portrait of Madame X, 1884. And this will be the only scandal in our selection that was caused not so much by the artist as by his model. In 1884, John Sargent finished the portrait of Virginie Gautreau. Virginie, the wife of a banker, was, as we would say now, a socialite, a style icon, a heartbreaker, and a constant subject of Parisian gossip. In general, she was a somewhat more uninhibited version of Ksenia Sobchak of that time, provoking exactly the same mixed feelings in the public, from envy and malice to admiration and adoration. Sargent was an excellent, accomplished artist, a wonderful portraitist, but this time he missed the mark with his model. The public erupted in outrage. In the first version of the portrait, the strap on the right shoulder was coquettishly slipped down, and this seemingly innocent detail became a perfect excuse for the scandal mongers who screamed about blatant shamelessness. Later, the artist repainted the strap to calm the raging hell. But that wasn't even the main issue. The public was outraged by the heroine of the portrait. Imagine if a portrait of Olga Buzova or Ksenia Sobchak were suddenly displayed in the Hermitage. The public mocked Virginia Gautreau, with newspapers publishing caricatures of her long nose and red ear. She was nicknamed the Queen of Spades, a jab at her neckline's shape. And unfortunately, this scandal ruined the artist's career. He had to leave Paris, and the model took a long time to recover. However, a little later, this scandal helped the artist build a great career in the United States. And now this painting is even exhibited at the Metropolitan Museum in New York. Sixth, Claude Monet, Impression Sunrise 1872. And this is an amazing story about how talented, scathing criticism did the impossible. It turned a marginal movement of artists into rebels, giving them the name that we know even today. In 1872 artists who had been rejected by the same Paris Salon, and at that time the Salon des Refusés did not yet exist, decided to open their own exhibition. It was Auguste Renoir's brother Edmond who had to hang the paintings, and driven to despair by the huge number of mourning landscapes, he asked Monet to at least change the title of one of them. He nodded at the painting and said, "Call it Impression?" And the exhibition on the Boulevard des Capucines would have gone unnoticed if it weren't for the critic Louis Leroy. He visited the exhibition and wrote such an ironic and funny review, mocking the artist, that it itself became the most popular work of the exhibition. Ordinary people reread it, laughed, and went to the Boulevard des Capucines to see with their own eyes what the critic had described. It became a kind of entertainment and sensation that, contrary to the critic's intentions, made both the exhibition and himself an event, and the painting Impression, Sunrise, the main and first work of Impressionism. The only one who was upset was Auguste Renoir, who lamented that he didn't get a mention in Leroy's review. Seventh, Vasily Vereshchagin, The Holy Family, 1884. At all times, Puritans have prevailed in society, but in the 19th century they practically ruled the world hand in hand with religious fanatics, ready to take offense at anything. In 1884, Vasily Vereshchagin exhibited in Catholic Vienna with two works, The Holy Family and The Resurrection. The artist was generally known for trying to show the truth in his paintings without embellishment. His battle scenes always caused scandals. In the overly explicit Bloody Torments, the patriots sitting in Tula saw a lack of patriotism. The same thing happened with Venya's exhibition. Look, the painting Holy Family depicts a very everyday scene of Christ's family, but in it Christ has brothers and sisters, which did not fit with the church's canons. But that's not all. The painting, Resurrection, has been lost, but photographs of it remain. Look, you will see Jesus climbing out of the tomb and the guards fleeing in terror from the risen dead man. You know, I would have run away without looking back too. I think Vereshchagin depicted the most natural and genuine human reaction. Although, of course, with a very good sense of irony. Oh, what has started? A whole cardinal spoke out with condemnation, denouncing the exhibition as a disgrace and calling it blasphemous. Sounds familiar, right? And it turned out to be the best advertisement. The newspapers wrote, "The exhibition of Vereshchagin's paintings is an unprecedented spectacle in Vienna." It had a kind of leveling effect, and the prince, the peasant, the millionaire banker, and the simple worker all hurried to pay 30 kreuzers at the ticket office, one after another. To catch a glimpse of the work of mighty talent as soon as possible, people tried to burn the painting. They poured acid on it. The local church organized a procession, trying to drive away the spectators. But all in vain. However, all this played right into Vereshchagin's hands. He wrote to his wife, "There's no reason to worry since I've already moved my revolver from my back pocket to my side pocket. Shortly after the Vienna exhibition, he met an American businessman who offered him $500,000 for a similar exhibition in the United States. 8th, Leonardo da Vinci, Salvator Mundi, year 1500. This painting lived quietly and without any scandals for 500 years until someone decided to sell it. It was believed to be the work of a follower of Leonardo, so its value was questionable, specifically £45. That was the price it was sold for at a Sotheby's auction in 1956 and in 2004. A group of art dealers, meaning people who make money by reselling paintings, for some reason bought it for $10,000. And suddenly, during restoration, a layer was discovered in which the Savior has an extra thumb on his right hand, which indicates that the artist was experimenting. Usually, imitators don't do things like that. It was then that people first began suggesting this painting could be Leonardo's own work. Many disagree with that, but in 2013, the Russian billionaire Rybolovlev, who later sued the dealers for inflating the price, bought the painting for $127 million. Rybolovlev is generally known for buying works of art at inflated prices without really understanding them. He accused the auction house and the dealers of collusion and put the painting up for sale. And, unexpectedly for everyone, it sold for as much as $450 million. The buyer remained unknown, and the painting immediately disappeared from sight. There are rumors that it was bought by an Arab sheikh to possess the most valuable thing Europe has, its culture. But there are also those who claim that the painting is being hidden to cover up the greatest scam. A 45-pound painting sold for $450 million. 9. Mikhail Vrubel, Princess of Dreams, 1896. An all-Russian industrial exhibition was held in Nizhny Novgorod. For it, Sava Mamontov commissioned Vrubel to create 2 panels, for which the artist provided several sketches. Emperor Nikolai looked at them and approved. But when the panels were finished, Benoit, who was overseeing the project, rejected them, calling them monstrous and lacking artistic value, and the commission also declined the panels. But Mamontov persisted. He acquired the panels for 5,000 rubles and held a dedicated exhibition for them, something like a Salon of the Rejected. But the scandal occurred. The commission rejected the emperor-approved project, and the exhibition was a major success. The criticism of the project came mainly from Vrubel's colleagues, but when the panels were presented to the public, they clearly dominated over the other works, which I think is what the commission was afraid of. 10th, James Whistler, Nocturne in Black and Gold. In 1877, James Whistler exhibited the painting Nocturne in Black and Gold, The Falling Rocket, at the Grosvenor Gallery in London. The painting depicts fireworks over a park. It was painted in the fashionable Impressionist style of the time, but perhaps for the first time it was very close to abstraction. And although we are already used to this, for the audience of that time, this vague composition, in their opinion, was something almost sloppy. And the respected art critic John Rescott wrote the following: "I have heard a lot about the shamelessness and conceit of the Cockney, but I never thought I would see a self-satisfied buffoon demand 200 guineas for splashing paint from a pot into the face of the public." Of course, this wasn't quite a scandal, but the artist decided to go all in and sued the critic, accusing him of slander. After all, he hadn't thrown any paint at the public. The trial lasted several years. Whistler won it and was awarded a ridiculous quarter of a penny from the critic. But during that time, legal expenses, scandals, and a tarnished reputation took their toll. The artist went bankrupt and was forced to auction off all his possessions. It's a pity that crowdfunding didn't exist back then. It could have easily helped out the unlucky artist. Later, inspired by this art scandal, James Whistler would write the book The Gentle Art of Making Enemies and slightly improve his situation. But as you can see, not every scandal allows you to become great. However, thanks to the trial, the painting became one of the symbols of aestheticism, a popular movement among artists at the end of the 19th century, and is now considered an outstanding work by Whistler. So, as you can see, my friends, often it's good publicity that can make even a mediocre painting famous. Do you not understand the meaning of the painting Cherchez le Scandale? Subscribe to my channel. Here we talk about art simply and, most importantly, honestly. Goodbye, everyone.